My husband whispered he'd shit in my mouth while my plane ticket was booked, yet I still returned to the marriage. I'm the architect, a 25-year-old woman who once traded a big city career for a promise of safety that became a psychological cage. That man took away my access to our life savings because I moved a key, but the moment I decided to leave wasn't the verbal abuse. It was over a dead houseplant. I left my whole life, you know? I was living in a big city with everything I loved, but I gave all that up for him. I traded my vibrant city life for his quiet, small town because Victor kept saying he'd be my safe place. We had this big, beautiful wedding. But right away, I was 6 hours away from my mom and my sister. That distance made me completely dependent on him. I stopped working to focus on school and getting used to the new town, which was so small. I didn't see it then, but stopping my work gave him his first real layer of control. Even that early, I should have seen the signs. He wouldn't believe I was sick unless I was coughing or vomiting. He didn't trust my word about anything that wasn't right in front of him. If you're listening to this and any part of my story is hitting you hard, please subscribe. It's helping me to know I'm not alone in this. Tell me where you're watching from in the comments. I just need to feel connected to someone right now. You know, it wasn't just about the work. It was about my feelings too. Victor's mistrust started subtly. I could tell him I have a terrible headache and he wouldn't care. He'd just look at me like I was making it up. It was only if I had really dramatic, visible symptoms, like actual coughing or vomiting, that he'd finally agree I was sick. It was a constant refusal to validate anything I felt inside. He wouldn't believe my own words about my own body. He was already conditioning me to doubt my own reality, and I didn't even realize it. That feeling of always having to prove my pain was exhausting. I wish I had listened to myself instead of trying to make him believe me. Trying to talk to him was the worst. I'd sit down and try to explain why I was upset, how his mistrust made me feel. He developed a dismissive pattern right away. It's like he just couldn't handle hearing my feelings. He'd cut me off mid-sentence and say a quick, empty sorry. That sorry wasn't an apology, though. It was a verbal shield. He was using that one word to silence me and end the discussion right there. I felt my pain and my thoughts were just an inconvenience to him. I was constantly being trained that my feelings didn't matter. He was shutting me down, not because he actually meant it, but just to get rid of the problem, which was me being upset. It made me feel so small. Things started getting worse, more scary. We had this safe where we kept our wedding gifts, valuable stuff. It was in his name, but I had access. We kept the key hidden, but I thought the spot wasn't very safe. So I moved the key to a better spot. I didn't think it was a big deal. I moved the safe key for security, and I immediately told Victor where it was while he was at work. I was just trying to protect our things, but I was so wrong. This simple, protective act became his first big, overt act of calculated control. I was about to find out exactly how quickly he would weaponize something totally innocent. I had no idea what was coming. I had gone to visit my family, and when I came back, he told me. He said he thought I had intentionally hidden the key from him. Even though I told him exactly where it was, he used it as an excuse. Victor returned from work and used the key incident as pretext to unilaterally remove my access to the safe. He had revoked my permit. Just like that. That single act shattered everything. It wasn't about the wedding gifts. It was about the trust. He was willing to hurt me just to prove his control, and he refused to give the permit back. That showed me his true nature. The safe was supposed to hold our valuables, but it was just another thing he could hold over my head. After he took my access to the safe, I knew we couldn't just keep going. I was so upset, so hurt. I insisted we needed therapy to fix his trust issues and the constant fighting. He looked at me and flatly refused, saying no way. We fought about it for a long time. I felt like I was losing my mind, just trapped in this town with him. I got so desperate, I made a huge mistake. I told him we should go to his parents, ask them for advice about the fighting. I thought maybe they could help. It wasn't a good idea. That was a colossal error because I was showing my hand to his enablers and I didn't even know it yet. Going to his parents was exactly as bad as I feared. We sat there, and I told them about everything. I told them about the fighting and the trust issues. Then I told them about the safe, how he just revoked my permit to access our wedding gifts. His parents minimized the safe incident and all our problems. They just said, "These kinds of things happen." That's all. They didn't even react. Not a surprise, not a question. Their total lack of reaction was chilling. It was like they already knew about his controlling behavior, or they just didn't care. I realized that asking them for help was useless. They were never going to side with me. My mistake of seeking external help only made me feel even more isolated. I was completely alone in that small town. Victor finally agreed to therapy, but only after a lot of fighting. He didn't really try, though. It felt slow, like he was just pretending for me. Then I tried to talk to him about something else that was wrong, our intimacy. I told him I wasn't feeling close enough to want to be with him because I felt so unsafe all the time. I tried to be vulnerable about our intimacy issues. His reaction was instant and awful. Victor immediately retaliated. He ripped his wedding ring off his finger. I heard the cold, metallic sound of the wedding ring hitting the nightstand. It was loud in the silence. Then he commanded, "You should go to your family." He threw his pillow and went to the couch. He kicked me out without saying the words. I was in shock. I just sat there and cried. After a while, I went outside to get some air and just breathe. I needed a minute to process what he'd done. While I was standing outside, my phone buzzed. He didn't text sorry, he didn't text come back. He actually texted me a pre-purchased bus ticket to my hometown. I remember the screen lighting up. The crinkle of the bus ticket felt like it was in my hand right then. He wasn't just mad. Victor doubled down on his cruelty. He was attempting a calculated, passive-aggressive expulsion from my own home. I was so furious. I walked back inside and told him, "This is my home too. You can't just kick me out." He had calmed down and tried to say he didn't mean it, that we could fix it. And I believed him. I wanted to believe him. But it wasn't fixed. 2 days later, we fought again. I was still so worried about the safe. I told him straight up I didn't feel safe without my permit. I told him when my sister Serafina came to visit, I'd give her all my valuables to take home. I didn't trust him anymore. Of course, that made him angry. He told me to pack my things and leave again. I reminded him it was my home too. He just smirked and said, "Pack or don't pack, but you're leaving today." I was hurt and angry, so I called Serafina and told her he was kicking me out. He grabbed the phone out of my hand, saying he never meant it. I saw the fear in his eyes. It wasn't fear of hurting me. It was sheer fear of what my family would say. That made me angrier than anything else. He wasn't sorry. He was just scared of the consequences. My sister was great. That evening, after the phone call, Victor and I talked for hours and he cried. I really thought he felt sorry. The next day, Serafina arrived as she had planned. She spoke to Victor, but she wasn't yelling. She just had this calm, hard tone. She told Victor that while angry words happen, if he ever kicked me out again, she would be furious. It was a clear boundary. Her warning was a temporary stop sign for him. It felt like she had fixed everything, but she hadn't. She had just postponed the inevitable breakdown. For a little while, everything went quiet. I tried to focus on my upcoming solo trip, trying to hold on to the memory of my family and feeling like I finally had someone on my side. I was trying to focus on my trip, the one I had planned so I could see my family. The day before my flight, Victor's dad, Robert, asked to be picked up from the airport. I told Victor the first could do it, no problem. But no. Victor took a full day off work to pick up his father, Robert. He didn't ask me to. He just decided to do it. The next morning, I was going to the train station to get to the airport. I had 3 heavy suitcases and a handbag, all my stuff. Victor had the day off, but he only drove me to the train station, just an hour away. He wouldn't drive me the whole way. He used his day off for his dad, but not for me. That was a clear sign. His family always came first. I always came last. Before Victor drove me to the station, we were still in the house. It was my last day before flying. I hadn't packed yet, and I was trying to plan things out in the living room while he was doing work stuff. Then he told me to cook for Robert, his dad, since he was arriving. I said I couldn't, I had no time to pack. He wouldn't drop it. He insisted I stop packing to cook for Robert. He actually said it would look good as a bride, like I was just a performer in his life. That phrase hit me hard. It wasn't about the food, it was about my performance as his wife. He only valued my appearance, not my personal time or that I needed to prepare for a big trip. I told him we could just order something, but he wouldn't listen. I was so angry, but I had things to do, so I just left the room. I went back to what I was doing, but he followed me. He was still mad I wouldn't cook. Then he said it. He leaned in and whispered the cutting line. "It's my fault for choosing someone like you." He said it so casually, but it was the coldest thing. It wasn't even yelling. It was just a statement of pure contempt. That comment showed me exactly how he felt about me as a person. I was just someone he regretted having. It was his utter contempt for me as an individual. It proved his mind was already made up. I didn't even fight back that time. I was just angry, but I had too much to do before my flight, so I walked away. It was all a performance to him, and when I wouldn't play my part, I became worthless. Later that evening, I told him I really didn't appreciate him saying it was his fault for choosing me. He didn't apologize, of course. He just said it again. "Yeah, I picked the wrong girl." He made a few more rude comments, just trying to push me. Then he went too far. He delivered the ultimate cultural insult. He whispered something truly vile, something that translates to, "I'll shit in your mouth." That remark is beyond disrespectful in our culture. It's disgusting. That was it. I was done. It wasn't an insult. It was a final, non-recoverable sign that our marriage was completely finished. He had shown me he had absolutely no respect for me at all. I went to sleep without saying another word. The next morning, it was time to leave for my trip. I was still carrying the weight of what he said the night before. Victor was still taking the day off for his dad, Robert. But for me, he only drove me an hour to the train station. The airport was just 1 more hour. I had 3 heavy suitcases in my handbag, all my stuff. He took the day off to pick up his dad, but he wouldn't drive his wife to the airport. He left me with 3 heavy suitcases and watched me go. That was the last piece of proof I needed. His actions spoke louder than all his fake apologies. His profound selfishness was confirmed when I saw him pull away, leaving me there with all my bags. He cared about his own comfort and his family's approval, not me. I made it to my vacation, but I couldn't relax. I was so upset, carrying all of it. Finally, I just broke down and called home. On my solo vacation, I finally told my parents everything. All the fights, all the insults, every awful thing he'd said. I even told them about that disgusting whisper. My dad, Marcus, who is always quiet and calm, actually got angry. I mean, truly angry. I realized that was the external validation I needed. After months of him making me doubt myself, my dad's anger showed me I wasn't crazy. I wasn't the problem. I told my mom, Liana, to be prepared. I told them I had decided I was going to get a divorce. I tried to enjoy the rest of the trip, even going to Las Vegas, but I knew I was coming back for a fight. Even being away didn't stop him. We barely talked, and when we did, we fought. He was jealous I was gone without him, even though he'd promised I could go. He only gave me money for the trip because our therapist made him. I told him I didn't want it because I knew he'd use it against me. And of course he did. Victor was jealous of my vacation and only gave me money for the trip after the therapist insisted. I was still gone, and he called, complaining about money. He actually said, "If I hadn't given you money, I could afford therapy." See? He used the $1,000 gift to blackmail me. He weaponized the money and threw it right back in my face, exactly like I knew he would. It was all about control, even when I was 6 hours away. I tried to tell him again I didn't even want the money, but he just kept going. He said since I wasn't working, he felt pressured to provide everything. I told him fine, if I needed cash, I'd ask my family. He went silent for a second. Then he said, "Okay, then tell your mom, Liana, to pay me back the $1,000 I gave you." And then the ultimate threat: "If you want to continue therapy, you better get a job. I'm not paying for it anymore." He has a great job. This was never about money. It was about control and pettiness. He was angry I was having fun while he was alone. He was punishing me for going on a trip he promised I could take. By then, honestly, I was already mentally halfway out of the marriage. I just needed to get home and make it final. When I got back from my vacation, I was ready to end it. I really was. But then Victor came to the airport to get me. He was trying so hard. Victor picked me up from the airport and drove us home. He had cleaned the house and he'd even made some food. He put on a complete show of being a loving husband. It was a desperate, manipulative performance, but for a brief moment, it worked. I almost forgot everything he'd done. For a second, a dangerous second, I felt a flicker of hope. I thought, maybe he did change. Maybe we can fix it. But the feeling was thin, like a piece of paper. I knew deep down it wasn't real. It was just another way to pull me back under his control. But that small bit of hope didn't last even a few days. I was unpacking, and I went over to where my favorite plant was. It was a gift from my old workplace, and I really loved it. A few days later, I found the plant, a beloved gift from my workplace, was dead. The soil was dry. Victor hadn't told me. Worse, he'd taken the dead plant out and was using the empty pot for his own stuff. Victor hadn't even mentioned it. This plant was one of the few things I had brought with me from my old city life. It was small, but I always said good morning to it. This was the most important, symbolic moment in the whole story. He didn't care about anything that mattered to me. I asked him, "Why didn't you tell me it died?" And his defense? The only thing he could say was, "I didn't know it was that important." I used to talk to that plant every single day. I told him how much I loved it, that it was my connection to my old job, my old life. But he didn't know it was important. That was the pivotal revelation. I felt something click inside me hard, like a stone hitting my heart. I realized that every time I told Victor something was important to me, he just didn't care. That plant symbolized everything I cared about that he had silently neglected. I finally understood he never truly loved or appreciated me at all. He only loved having control over me. When that click happened, when I realized he just didn't care about anything I valued, it was like a physical blow. The stone hit my heart, and I just shattered. I broke down sobbing from the sudden, clear truth of his indifference. There was no doubt left in me. I didn't call him to fight. I didn't try to explain myself anymore. I called my mom, Liana, right then and there. I couldn't even manage a full sentence at first. I was crying so hard. But then I said it with absolute certainty. I simply said, "I want a divorce." It wasn't a question. It wasn't a threat. It was the only truth left. After months of him making me feel crazy, the clarity was stunning, even through the tears. It was finally over. The next day, I told Victor what I had done. I told him my mom, Liana, and dad, Marcus, were coming to pick me up. And just like that, the act started again. He immediately began crying. We both cried, actually. I was questioning myself again, wondering if I was doing the right thing. He started bargaining with the manipulative promises. "Give me 2 months, I'll change," he said. "Let's go to therapy again, we can fix it." It was the same cycle of hope and abuse. He was trying desperately to drag me back in. He knew the crying worked before. But this time something felt different. The clarity from seeing the dead plant was still stronger than his tears. I didn't give in. I stood firm. He just kept begging, asking for 2 months, saying we could fix it. But I kept hearing his promises, and all I could think of was the dead plant. His tears were just a new form of the old control. I had to be strong. Despite the tears and my own moment of self-doubt, I held my ground. I just kept repeating, "No, Victor, I'm done." I didn't yell. I didn't explain. I just stood there, completely firm. I knew that if I wavered even a little, he'd pull me right back into his messed up life. I refused his final attempt at negotiation. The decision was made. The path to my own liberation was set. There was no going back to the constant fighting and him making me feel crazy. The waiting was the worst. Just waiting for my parents to arrive and get me out of that house forever. My mom and dad, Liana and Marcus, came to the house. Victor's parents came too. We all sat down for this horrible meeting. My parents were so calm. They weren't yelling or angry, just deeply disappointed. They didn't want to make a scene. But oh boy, the drama started fast. Victor's mom, Dahlia, went completely crazy. She went into full dragon mode. She was furious at me. She started arguing about every private thing I'd ever talked about with Victor, things a wife thinks stay between her and her husband. Right there, in front of everyone, I had this awful realization. Victor had told his mom everything. Every little argument. Every therapy session. He didn't just fight me, he reported back to her. He had broken every rule of our marriage. This final meeting was supposed to be a calm goodbye, but it was just a chaotic confrontation. My parents, Liana and Marcus, arrived with quiet dignity. They were disappointed, not dramatic. But Victor's parents were so tense. I could feel it. The stage was set for a nightmare. Dahlia was just getting started. Victor had told his mom everything, including the things he should never have shared. She knew about our therapy. She even knew his exact words. She started yelling that therapy was too expensive, using his own lines to shame me in front of my own mom and dad. It was a complete betrayal, right down to the last dollar he didn't want to spend. I couldn't believe how fully he had armed her against me. Then Dahlia went even lower. She dug up things from my past, things Victor must have told her a long time ago. She actually brought up that I had a boyfriend before Victor. She used that to shame me in front of my parents, calling me a bad woman for it. She was desperate. My mom, Liana, stood up for me right away and set clear boundaries, but Dahlia was too far gone. She just kept going on and on. All I could think about was my dad, Marcus, and how angry he got when I told him the truth. That memory kept me quiet and strong inside while she was yelling. Her attacks weren't working. They were just confirming that I was doing the right thing. She was only proving what a terrible family I was leaving. Every horrible thing Dahlia said, every detail, just proved what I already knew. I realized in that moment that Victor had betrayed my trust to his mother. He hadn't just gossiped. He had been reporting back to her for months, maybe since we got married. Every argument, every fight, even the private stuff we talked about with the therapist, she knew it all. The facade of our privacy crumbled completely. Our marriage wasn't just between the two of us. It was a three-person show with Dahlia as the judge. He armed her with all the weaknesses I had shown him. It was an awful emotional leak. I looked at him and saw not a husband, but a scared little boy who ran to his mommy with a report card on his wife. That realization made the divorce feel even more necessary. Dahlia just wouldn't stop yelling. She started listing things about how terrible I was as a wife. Dahlia began listing fabricated complaints. She was saying, "You never cook for my son, you don't clean, and you're always playing on the PS5. That's when I lost it, but not in a bad way. I started laughing. I mean, actually laughing out loud. None of that was true. I don't even play the PS5. It was such a ridiculous, baseless lie. Her attack was so hysterical and disconnected from reality that it was absurd. I realized how completely desperate they were. I tried to speak up and told her that her son had kicked me out of our house twice, but she just dismissed it. She said I was only telling my side, like she wasn't using Victor's completely made-up side. The whole scene was totally crazy. While Dahlia was still ranting, Victor saw his chance. He took advantage of the chaos. He was so petty and manipulative, right to the end. He forced me to sign some paperwork. Victor took advantage of the chaos, forcing me to sign a contract saying I no longer lived in the flat and had no rights to it. He was trying to take everything. His leverage was the valuable belongings I still had in the safe he revoked my permit to access months ago. He said if I didn't sign it, he wouldn't let me get my things. I was so furious he was still trying to control me, but I didn't care about the apartment anymore. I just wanted my stuff and to be gone. I signed it right there just to guarantee my exit. The contract was a piece of trash, but it meant freedom. I signed his stupid contract. I got access to my belongings and started packing. That's when I had my moment. I packed up everything I had bought. I made sure I took back every single thing that was mine. And then I went for the coffee machine. My sister Serafina had gifted us this really nice, fancy coffee machine. I don't even drink coffee, but Victor loves it. After the way his mom Dahlia acted and after everything he'd done, I wasn't leaving anything nice behind. I made sure to pack the fancy coffee machine. This was my silent, final declaration of independence. He can enjoy the smell of instant coffee from now on. It was a petty, satisfying victory. I was taking back my power one possession at a time. My parents helped me load the car. We packed everything that was mine and got ready to leave. I took one last look around the living room. Seeing the empty spaces where my stuff used to be was incredible. The visual of his apartment left half empty was the tangible proof of what he had lost. It was the result of his pettiness and his need to control me. He could sit there in his empty flat and think about the dead plant and the missing coffee machine. At that moment, after all the lies and the manipulation, I just thought, I'm really truly done with this. It was the final, clean feeling of liberation. We got in the car, and I knew I was finally free of him. That first drive away was everything. But I'm not completely done yet. I still have to go back one more time. I really don't want to see Victor again. I don't want to deal with his crying or his fake promises. But I need to do this. I have one more trip to make to take every last item I paid for. I'm taking the dishes, all the towels, the small closet I bought, everything that belongs to me. This isn't just about recovering my things. It's about a mission. I need to leave a final, echoing silence in his life. When I'm done, he's going to sit there in his empty apartment with his instant coffee and realize what he actually lost. He lost someone who genuinely cared. I'm going to make sure that loss is something he has to confront every single day. That's the only ending that feels right.